Weird to think that Jonathan Majors was originally going to be in this film, but we are reviewing Sinners, which was written and directed by Ryan Coogler, with the caveat that in 20, maybe 25 years, he gets full rights to this film, which is unprecedented for the film industry. But with a budget of $90 million, it made $365 million in theaters, with Michael B. Jordan playing two parts. And if anyone was curious, the B is because the Screen Acting Guild does not allow two actors to have exactly the same name. So unfortunately, because of the Jam in Space, the prequel to Space Jam 2, Michael B. Jordan could not be registered with the Screen Actors Guild as Michael Jordan.
I did not know that.
It seems time for... I almost went Michael B. Jordan, but that gave me enough time to remember Bradley Cooper's trivia. Our Bradley Cooper is much sexier than the real thing.
So this was Ryan Coogler's first R-rated film that he's directed in 12 years.
Since Fruitvale Station.
It was exactly that film. There you go. Smoke and Stack are identical twins. Their real names are Elijah and Elias, which are also variants of the same name.
No, we cousins.
And then many of the musical performances were recorded live on set, with cast members performing along with the blues musicians. So that was kind of cool too, because that's kind of not normal. So.
Yeah. The only other movie I think that used recorded on-set dialogue was the musical adaptation of Les Miserables, and did not... oh, God, that too. Okay, thank God you mentioned Cats so that Les Miserables didn't come out so derided, but same director. Did not come out as well as the director had hoped. The King's Speech was pretty good, though. Non-spoiler first thoughts about Sinners?
Spoilers.
We got a little non-spoilers before we're running into the spoilers, unless you'd all like to jump to the halfway mark and roll into spoiler territory. Spoiler Sinners, less spoilers.
I can do non-spoiler. Okay, cinematography, amazing. The acting was great. The music was phenomenal. All of those get A+ markings. The story was so abysmal that it ruined everything for me. It was like watching two different movies get mashed together just really, really badly. And it almost felt like the first half, I was like, okay, I can kind of see where we're going here with this like pretty semi-decent, culturally relevant period piece. But then all of a sudden they try to like force feed this horror thing into it just so crudely, to where there's so many gaps in the story. It just ruined everything beautiful that you potentially saw before. And it just left me like just so disappointed, especially with what it was supposed to represent for the community and things like that. I don't think I gave any spoilers there.
I don't disagree with a lot of that on there. I can't speak for the community and everything, but it did remind me of From Dusk Till Dawn, which was written by Quentin Tarantino, directed by Robert Rodriguez. And that had a very similar structure of the second half had a similar structure. The first half was, we're a pair of criminals. We're trying to get out of town. We kidnap a family so we can get out of town. Whoops, we've ended up in a bar with a bunch of vampires. Now we fight to survive. And obviously, this halfway through turning into a vampire tale, that's where the similarities kind of come from. But it did kind of hit that way of there's so many nuanced performances. And even after the switch, there's so many videos I've seen about the nuances of Irish and Asian people with relation to African American people in that time span, all these different layers to it. But it did kind of switch, potentially strangely.
Are you referring to Dusk Till Dawn, or are you referring to this movie?
I think From Dusk Till Dawn had an easier time of it because it was just trying to be pulse racing the whole time of there are these two brothers who robbed banks, I think, or they had done something criminal, and they're just trying to get out of town. And then, whoops, they've tripped over a vampire bar. They're kind of fucked. They have to all, even though it's very tense between the brothers and the kidnapped family, they have to figure out a way to survive the night. Whereas this is we have all these different facets of different characters just coming together to make a night of music, and then a vampire shows up uninvited. They're not unfortunately accidentally in a shit ton of trouble. And he's like, you know what? This music was so good, I'm gonna bring the trouble. And that almost had nothing to do with your journey tonight. Like, you were just looking to have a chill, fun time. Whoops, a little bit of drama has shown up. Now, are y'all gonna die? If that made any sense. I guess just once trouble showed up, they had already landed where they wanted to be.
Okay. I was kind of trying to figure out how I felt about like that aspect of it, because you guys are right. Like this movie definitely has like two halves. And I think both halves of this movie could be really, really good if you just like filled out the other half with something that went with that. As a movie as it sits now, I mean, I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty decent. Like you guys said, cinematography, the music, the art direction of this movie was really good. My biggest thing, and this is kind of a spoiler, kind of not, these Smoke and Stack are played by the same actor, Michael B. Jordan, and it's sometimes kind of hard to tell them apart, especially in some of the darker scenes. It's kind of hard to tell which one's which, especially throughout the movie. They lose one of their defining characteristics, which is the color of their hat. So it kind of gets like, if you're not 100% focused, locked in, you forget which one's which, because they kind of start losing their mannerisms as things happen, because they have a little bit of different speaking mannerisms, which I assume was on purpose to try and separate them to make them a little bit different. But as things start happening, the action starts flying. I don't know if Michael B. Jordan loses that, or if it's just like so much is happening that you can't focus on what mannerism it is, so that way you can figure out which one it is, which one of the two characters he's playing. Even
when their costume are like blue and red, it's so subdued / actually stylish, as in like, yeah, I could see them being there, as opposed to like a Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, where it would have been the brightest blue and the brightest red t-shirt at all times, like almost close to Family Guy level of identifiable. But this felt like it had for the time period, proper amount of texture, to the point where it does. Even on, I checked Letterboxd earlier, I've seen this 3 times when I've been able to watch it at home, and I'm pretty sure I just forgot to log it once, because it has to be more than that. I would even be like taking notes and be like, Smoke, Stack, red, blue, just to remember. And at a certain point on the even most recent watch, which I think it's the 4th, that I forgot to log, I was like, wait, have we been with the blue one for that long? Yeah, no, we had.
I think this movie would have been better off with Jonathan Majors, or at least another actor playing the second one. Jonathan Majors was the one, I just say his name because he was the one that was originally supposed to be there. So a second actor, and I think that would have made that aspect of the movie a little bit cleaner, a little bit better, but it still would have suffered from the same things of it being two halves of two different movies.
And for anyone who's seen Creed 3, like, gosh, that makes so much sense. Because I saw Creed 3 before everything started, and it was such an amazing, great film with such uncomfortableness that I can see how Michael B. Jordan would tell Ryan Coogler, because Ryan Coogler wrote and directed the first Creed, but never again, and Michael B. Jordan directed the third Creed. I could see how Michael B. Jordan would be like, you need a brother for me? This is the guy for you. And then everything came out that relatively right before they started filming, that they pivoted into the double strategy. So it's not a great situation to be in, but if it hadn't been that kind of situation, it could have been something amazing. And that's not me saying like, oh, bummer that came out, because I've known people who said stuff like, oh man, it's such a bummer that I forget who Rihanna's ex was, that came out at that point, because they were about to be the king of pop, the next king of pop. I was like, the fuck is wrong with you? Not saying that, but just saying that reality, if that hadn't existed, that could have been something a little bit different with that regard. Although, interesting fact, the actress who played, it's not correct to say shaman, but off the top of my head, I don't know a better word, the more mystical character whose child was the focal point. She said that on days that Michael B. Jordan played her love interest, she felt attracted to him or something along those lines. And then on days he played the other character, she was just like, felt nothing. So at least in terms of the acting, there was some je ne sais quoi he was able to
good for him.
Yeah, capture. I mean, that maybe it doesn't reflect on screen. Recently, James Gunn said sometimes you don't need to feel good to do good writing, or you don't need to feel good to do good acting, but like sometimes a take can feel wrong, but on camera it looks amazing. But I mean, if that's what he's able to give his scene partner, that's pretty cool. Would you all like to get into spoilers? Spoilers for sinners. I don't know if there was a transition. All right, so we've already talked about the structure. Does anyone have anything specific they want to jump right into about Sinners?
I mean, we've already touched on the fact that it was two different films, essentially, like two different parts that didn't quite fit together well. I think a couple of my biggest pet peeves is the fact that they introduce the, Native American group that obviously knows about the vampires and everything, and then they just disappear. You don't hear about them again. You don't see them. Like, that was it. Their only job was to introduce that individual was dangerous. And then you have, just like really weird mixed symbolism of it all. Like, are we trying to create a story about culture and everything like that, especially when you get to the scene right before the vampires appear, and it's like them going through all the different variations of music that African Americans have had an impact on. So it's like, okay, this is the heart of what we're doing, but then you immediately turn it over to where it's all about the white devil and all of this, and now we're being turned by them, and it's like this is one thing and this is something completely different, and now you've just where is it supposed to lie? I think those are like my biggest pet peeves without getting too deep into any context of it.
Sure. That scene in particular seems so interesting to me because obviously it doesn't come up again in the film, but it goes into eras of African American culture in terms of music, but then when it goes over to the wife who made the sign, it goes into Asian culture, and this is coming from a bunch of video essays and breakdowns that I looked into afterwards, but the idea that him being someone who can speak through time with music is what brought Remick to him, and then the fact that Irish and Italian Americans were seen as people of color until they weren't, and then Asian people were seen as acceptable to serve, and historically they did serve on one side of the street Caucasian customers, on the other side of the street African American cultures. And I didn't catch this until having subtitles on, but when Rosie, the Asian woman when the daughter walks across and then the Asian married woman walks back, there's subtitles after Smoke or Stack, I forget who, shoots the two people who are trying to rob him. It says, "I have nothing against them, but violence does become," or something like that. And it's just oh, I've heard that crap. That's unfortunate / realistic for the times, especially in the wake of him stopping them robbing. But all those nuances, I watched a podcast of Ryan Coogler talking about it, and the film is great, but I'm curious about that sequence.
The sequence itself was great. I think it was well done. It just, if it was meant to be the connecting piece, I don't think that was enough to make the connection from the first half to the second half. Standalone, it's pull that aside and you just have that sequence, phenomenal. But it wasn't enough to bring it all together, at least not for me.
I think it would have been cooler if we would have had the Native American tribe being just on the heels of the vampires this entire time. So that way it's not just them giving you expedition and then just I think they peace out until the post-credit scene or whatever.
I didn't even stay for the post-credit scene. There was one? Oh.
Yeah. It happens very quickly. So if you stayed for 10 seconds into the credits.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll show you because it's quite a thick scene. It's not actually quite a post-credit scene. It's just they decided to put a couple credits before finishing the movie.
Yeah, so they basically just peace out. So it would have been cooler for them to be on their tail and maybe they're kind of pushing the vampires into a direction unintentionally, but pushing them into a direction. So that way it would have connected maybe those pieces together a little bit more. The vampires are trying, or the Native American guys are trying to capture the vampires or whatever, and then they inadvertently led them to this back party, which I think would have connected the two pieces a little bit more, but...
Yeah, on my last watch, that's something I noted, because it does go, and I've seen people online being like, hey, why is he able to run in the sun, but, you know, the other one's just immediately burst a flame? I guess because he's older, stronger, whatever, better, faster. But he's built different.
He doesn't sparkle, I don't know.
But, like, it does all happen in, like, 8 hours, right? Because he gets to because it's about to go sundown. So it's the night before he ends up at the racist's house, and then the next day happens. So I guess we just don't see him during that day where the Native Americans would have slotted in.
Yeah.
I just think it's odd that they didn't. Because they know that he's going to kill them and make more. Like, they obviously know about the vampires. So why would they just be like, all right, you know what? Not our problem. Like, obviously, it's still their problem.
Yeah.
You know, and I probably would have even, like, I think the one thing that they could have done to where they would have somewhat saved that for me, and it would have also given a little bit more meaning to, like, the whole drive that the brothers have. You know, that big, something happened, obviously. We know something happened that forced them to leave Chicago. They never really tell us what. Like, why couldn't that have been the connection between them and that vampire? You know, it could have been that they saw something that they weren't meant to see. They don't really talk about it much because they're, you know, they're big gangsters or whatever. But the vampire recognized them, knew them from Chicago, followed them down there or whatever. Like, that could have very easily been that connection that was needed to where it would make sense why all of a sudden there's this whole altercation between the two of them, or the three of them, however you want to look at it, especially if it's to the point where, you know, the one brother decides at the very end to just sacrifice himself for no legitimate reason. Like, there was no reason for it other than his pride. I doubt it's that, because he had his cousin to worry about. Like, I would have thought that in that situation, he would have been much more likely to ensure that his cousin got safely somewhere, rather than be like, you know what, my brother's dead, I'm going to go kill some Klansmen and then, you know, die here too. Because he obviously was not trying to preserve himself in that situation.
His cousin did save himself, though, right? Before the
summers? Yeah, he saved himself. But I'm saying, like, as protective as the twins were of their cousin, I feel like he would have made sure his cousin was safe before he decided to go after the Klansmen, if he decided to go after them later. I don't think he would have just been like, look, you go off, try to get home, get back to the church. I'm going to stay here and finish this out. Like, a lot of the things that happen in the second half don't seem like they fit the characters that were built up in the first half.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the fight sequence, and since we're kind of in that era, the fight sequence I thought was really well done in, like, a cinematic point of view. But yeah, like, they, like, held them off, like, forever before the dance floor, and then, like, the second area, the dance floor, they kind of held them off, and, like, all of a sudden it feels like they just kind of got overran, like, really quickly, even though they were doing such a good job holding off the first two steps. And then that's kind of when he decides to just, like, basically sacrifice himself for everything.
Yeah, the guy who almost threw up from garlic, him, it's a striking image, and it hits for what it's intending, but plot-wise, like, they're gonna bite you anyway. Like, you don't actually need to do all that. You could fight a little longer without doing the admittedly gnarly part of cutting your own arm open, but...
I did appreciate, though, that they connected the front half of the movie of the opening scene and the ending scene together, and then they kind of expanded a little bit on the ending scene, which makes sense. So I did like that they at least, like, brought it full circle. Of him busting into the church all busted up and everything.
Yeah, so I forgot that it's unintentionally it reminded me of the mid-credits and post-credits. So just since we're in the spoilers, Milan, did you see the young guitar player, the cousin, as an older man?
What do you mean by older man?
Like, literally played by an older man.
I mean, I assume that he probably was, but at least I hope so.
There were two scenes. There was a post-credit scene where he plays the guitar before he leaves. Like, I'm assuming the day before the movie starts at the church, but a mid-credit scene where there's a character playing a 90-year-old version of him with cuts on his face.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the meaty mid-credit scene I was talking about earlier, so that's good.
Oh, okay.
What did you think of that?
I'm not quite following. I mean, he
Just that
decided to
scene.
continue with music.
Yeah, them all, him, Haley Steinfeld's character, Michael B. Jordan's surviving brother, them all like reuniting at the end. I think at first for me,
I didn't realize. I don't think I paid attention enough to realize the others were there. I just recognized him and then turned it off.
Oh, okay. So there was a scene after that performance where they paid like $200 to come in and say, "Hey, how are you doing? You're pretty old. Do you want to get bit?" And he says no. And then he asks Michael B. Jordan's character, whoever was in love with Haley Steinfeld, before the sun went down, like, what was that day like for you? And he said it was his best day ever. Last time he saw the sun, last time he saw his brother. And then the cousin said, I think that's true for me too, essentially. And they had...
So it implies that one of the brothers survived in the barn or whatever?
Yeah, the human one who sacrifices himself at the end let his vampire brother live with the promise that he would not touch their cousin before he went off. So potentially his ending was, my brother's safe, the vampires...
No, see, that upsets me even more.
Oh,
I wish I hadn't have known that. Yeah, that makes it even more stupid.
Okay.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's just like...
I just saw it as he doesn't have anything to live for anymore.
But he absolutely did.
The love of his life was gone, his child was gone, his brother was gone, his cousin will survive on, but with the father who doesn't want him to have...
His brother is alive without a soul.
Yeah.
Or at least like in this... we're not even going to dig into that. That's dumb. I think so, at least. More power to anyone who thinks that was beautiful.
I see how it can be beautiful, but, seeing the way of he'll never be able to move on.
I would have left and let those Klans people go into that freaking building where it is dark and have fun with the vampires in there that can't die from their dumb bullets. If you're going to let them live, at least let them take them out.
I think all the vampires are gone by the morning.
He's in there. Well, his brother has to still be in there because everyone else died from the sunlight. So I'm assuming that his brother survived the day because he's inside.
He must, if he wasn't inside, he must have like run off to like some hole in the ground close by. Because the last shot we see of both of them of that night is the human brother holding the stake over the vampire brother. And it's full nighttime, so he's got like 5 minutes maybe.
Yeah, for some reason I highly doubt that he's gone from there.
Fair.
I think it was just poor writing in the second half, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did really like early on with the one brother who was solo. So was that Stack? No, that was I don't know. It was the blue person or the person who wasn't with his cousin who did know. No, it was Red. I don't know. He knew how to watch his own back. He talks to the young girl and he's like, "Hey, come here. Do you know the Smokestack twins?" Of course. I'm Stack, I think. And then he teaches her to negotiate. Where he's like, how's 10 cents a minute work? Nah, numbers have to be in conversation. And I really, really like that he didn't just, that looked like it would have been great for her by her reaction, but that he taught her to always value herself as more, just that little nuance before he goes and shoots the guy in the butt and then shoots the guy in the knee.
And yet, the way this film ends, that's my point exactly. Out of character. Those are not the same people. Okay.
So the guy that teaches somebody to negotiate, it conflicts with him saving his brother or deciding to shoot up the Klansmen, or which part?
No, it makes him saving his brother thing, like that one, I think regardless, they're twins. Like, it doesn't really matter what the belief system is. I can always understand why a writer would put in that the twin is not going to kill or allow their other twin to die, even if they are a vampire. But even with that, like, he talks about negotiation, the value of life, his own personal value. I don't think that if he got through something like that, his character is going to allow him to just quit, because that's essentially what he was doing. Like, he took out the Klansmen, yeah, but he was just like, okay, my journey's done here. Like, I don't see that in his character, knowing that his brother is alive in a very precarious situation that he just allowed him to survive from, and he just sent his cousin off down a road after this battle by himself. Like, it just doesn't fit that character we were introduced to in the beginning.
I can see that.
Like that's what I'm saying. Where it just feels like it builds it up to be like this one thing where like, oh, you have these really strong individuals and everything like that, but by the end of it, their characters just come off as very weak, even if technically they won.
Yeah,
which was disappointing. I was really expecting like strong black vampires. I was really excited. I was like, all right, cool. We got this really cool, black vampire flick. We're gonna see some really cool, black vampires. That's not what I got.
I was a little confused watching. I really like the scene, but I was a little confused on the meaning behind like the music scene where they're kind of like they're like ghosts and stuff like that, where they're kind of going through the different eras. I thought that the scene looked really cool, and I thought like the music was done really well. I just didn't understand like one, how it was happening, and two, like what was the point of it, I guess.
I mean, that's what Brian was saying. It was supposed to be like the connecting piece, right? I don't think it was enough, but
according to the text of the movie, there are certain individuals who can speak through time, and they have certain sights or feelings, and they can use music to speak through that. So apparently, and according as well as to video essays and stuff like that I've seen, the cousin is one of those magical people who, through his music, he can feel eras of time. Kind of like, if I can simplify it too much, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Avatar can talk to the other avatars, but I mean, it genuinely, that is kind of the closest that I can come to as a relative example. Instead of speaking to other avatars through the generations, through his music, he can feel the eras of art, and through the past and through the future. Obviously, we don't see past what our time is, but that's why he's able to see all the different eras that we might be able to look back through and notice. It's kind of an expansion of the hates and the vampires and the voodoo-esque elements of the film. So and that's what Remick feels as a vampire. He feels that power, so he's drawn to it. That's why he just wants the cousin. At the beginning, when he's already revealed that he's a vampire, he's like, I'll take him and be on my way, and I won't, kill anybody else. He wants that power within his, whatever you would call a vampire coven. So he's
fantastic.
Yeah. I didn't get that, so that's probably partially on me.
No, I mean, it also does stick out whether you vibe with it or not. Like, it's very removed in terms of vibe. It never comes up again. It's not supposed to come up again, I guess.
I wish they would have, there's so many chances that they could have, led on to that, or, kind of pieced you in a little bit to that, because there's a lot of music within this movie. They could have, made that more apparent.
Yeah, through dialogue, it's only through the beginning where they have all the art as the film, the introduction, the voiceover with her character, and then through the visuals of that sequence, obviously, and then when Remick talks about it.
Yep. But you could have done that the opening church scene, which would technically have been second. You could have did that sometime in the beginning when they're at the bar trying to recruit people. You could have put something there too, which would have kind of made this feel more connected, more. You could have told that there was something special about this, and then you would need some way to bring the vampire, for us to know that the vampire wants him for that specific gift, without it just seems weird. Now that we're talking about all this, watching the movie the time and a half, 2 times, it feels okay. But now that we're talking about this, and now that you're we're poking this a little bit, now it makes less sense as we talk about this.
It does lean into the, even with voiceover, show don't tell, potentially too much for audiences.
You can show more times than just one time, and we have to infer a whole crazy thing from a 6-minute, 7-minute music scene.
Yeah,
that just seems weird, but it seems like it's cool, visually, and the music and stuff like that. But I didn't infer all that from that scene.
Yeah, I think even if someone's going to fully vibe with that sequence, it might need to be on a second watch. But, I mean...
How many people watch horror movies multiple times? Come on now. I'm just joking. Horror movies are like one of the most rewatched movies.
And this got re-released during the Halloween weekend. And possibly, I guess this will factor in, so I'll drop it, but one of the iterations of the Blade movie for the MCU, the one that's supposed to still have Mahershala Ali, was going to use time period costumes, but then the movie didn't start. So when Ryan Coogler needed stuff, the costume designer was like, I already have all this. Does this work? And they're like, this is great. So most of the costume is from here. But yeah, it is kind of caught in that trifecta of like, I would like to make something prescient for the time period. I would like to make a character foundation to everything. And I would also like to make this, speaking to all the racial dynamics of multiple different things. And then I would also like to make a vampire film, because that'd be pretty chill, and it's got to be hard to balance everything.
Less is more. Like if there had been no vampires, and they just kind of carried out the story with the twins and the Klansmen, I think I would have left being like, okay, this wasn't a complete waste of my time. I didn't hate it. I could enjoy the story. Or if it had started off literally just as a vampire movie, I probably would have been like, all right, another somewhat decent vampire movie. But now you've thrown in magical music and like voodoo that's mentioned but then not even used fully. Like they could have done so much more with that. Like why even introduce it if you're not going to utilize it to its fullest extent in that type of situation? Like you're doing stuff related to that. Like why isn't she talking more about the whole connection between music and magic or something like that? Like there's just so much left.
Or there could at least be a conversation about like when she's asking him to kill her if she returns, like, can't you make another mojo bag? It's like, I don't have the stuff here, or take my mojo bag. No, it's not for me. That kind of stuff. Because that's literally what saves him. Like the human brother. Physically, we see a stake or something like that being stopped.
I don't think anybody needs to hear me repeat myself. So I feel like I don't have much more to contribute than being like, these are two separate stories. They don't connect properly. I don't like it. Should have written more. Or written less. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate that with everything else as great as it was. I hate that the writing wasn't up to par with everything else that was amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I was like, I wish they would have just like, taken out the voodoo aspect of it, and then like just had the Native Americans like accidentally lead them to that thing, and like then start the vampire side of that, but like just take out the voodoo part and like just force it that way, and then it could have been like
probably take out the whole. As much as I enjoy the musical like through time piece, I think that just confuses it more. Like, I don't think it was necessary there. So if they had have taken that out and put in what you're talking about, like that whole piece where, the Native American warriors are chasing after the vampires or whatever, that would have salvaged at least a good portion of it.
Yeah. I mean, and you could have had the vampires like get drawn to the music because all of a sudden, like, they're getting chased and like they need somewhere to go. And they're like, we can do 2 birds, 1 stone with this kind of thing. Like, we can recruit new members to our vampire boy band, and then hide out in this place out in the middle of nowhere and kind of save ourselves for a day and buy us some time. So,
yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, but like visually, like I like the movie watching it, but then like now that we're talking about it, started poking the holes. Like the holes are bigger than I think I thought they were. I thought they were. I knew there were holes, and I knew this wasn't perfect. But like now that we're kind of poking the holes, the holes are like tissue paper, and like we're making them too big.
And I'll be honest, I think the only reason why I am as upset over this film as I am is that there was so much hype and so much like positive credit like given towards it for various things. So like I had these high expectations and I'm just like, can I not trust the public anymore? Like, why is no one talking about the fact that the story is terrible? Like, I would have been okay if people had been like, yeah, cinematography, music, everything is great. The story was a little flat though, but that's not what people are saying. They're like, it was all beautiful. Like, come on, y'all, that can't be right.
Yeah, I can't right now tell how much the great performances and the great amount of layers and subtext in the story compensate for the lacking. Like, maybe that distracts a lot of people. Who are like, wow, it was such a great performance, even on screen. Like, it was great double performances from Michael B. Jordan. And everything I hear, there's more and more subtext about the time and all these things that go into it. And maybe that pulls away from the fundamental elements that are missing in terms of just traditional script structure. It could also just be the fact that it is kind of non-traditional, that it's like, oh, this is fresh. It might not be perfect, it might not be great, and it might not be something that really lives beyond scrutiny, but it being non-typical might be exciting.
And it's a horror movie, and horror fans, I think in general, are a little bit looser on some of those aspects, because they're more there for like the horror and stuff like that. And like traditionally, horror movies have a lot of big plot holes and a lot of like, if you just got in the car and drove away, you would have been out of the situation.
And it's original, and it's a time period piece, and it's maybe even the fact that Brian Coogler is going to get ownership in like 20 years, that gives some excitement. But yeah, I think for me, it's always going to be something fascinating that I can get something from every time I watch it, but maybe I'm not going to be exclusively entertained ever. Like, even while it makes perfect sense in hindsight, even the woman saying, "Come in, motherfuckers!" Like, the first time I was like, God, what the
You thought that makes sense.
Just keep your daughter inside every night, every time the sun goes down. It's inconvenient, but fuck. Like,
what about any of that made sense? It made zero sense. She was obviously a very smart woman.
Yeah, and then in terms of the allegories of the times and stuff, it goes back to like the fact that some minorities can undercut others to seem more of a model minority type of thing, or they can still default on some side of racism of like allowing to sacrifice people of color.
That's a stretch.
So
that's a stretch.
Those are just the deconstructions I've seen.
I mean, that stretch right there is the size of a football field, man.
Well, I guess it goes back to the fact that like white people would quote unquote tolerate people who are Asians, and then sometimes when people of color who are on the more favored side of white privilege or the white gaze can tip over to that side if it's a whole bunch that can get chewed into, and obviously can be a lot of conversation that can be delved into. But
I think that's the part that wasn't handled very well, because a lot of those cultural undertones I think missed the mark.
Yeah, that might be one of those things where it like starts with a good idea, but within the context of the film doesn't really work. A much easier one for me historically has been in Black Widow. That movie, apparently none of the Black Widows can attack the main guy because of his pheromones, which at first you're like, oh, this guy's misandrist, he's pathetic, his whole life is dedicated to controlling women, so of course, in an Andrew Tate kind of way, what would be the most powerful thing to stop women killing me? My pheromones. But then you think, rifle, and then it just completely dissolves. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense for his character, and then just completely dissolves with reality. I guess at least this isn't that ridiculous.
All right, let's rate this thing and get out of here. I think we've beaten this one pretty good.
Sure.
Okay, we're there.
I'm going to go to my most recent... Oh, no, that was April, before I started doing the 420 reviews. All right, do y'all have the... Oh, no, there it is. Dope meters, or do you need reminders?
Let's do a reminder, because I don't remember.
Right. So, are y'all familiar with S tier and everything like that? So, S tier would be ayahuasca. A tier would be a mushroom. B tier would be an edible. C tier would be a joint. D tier would be skunky. F tier would be poison. And then for the random Michael Bay film that we might enjoy, there'd be Molly, the wild card, a fun as fuck piece of shit. So where do y'all land on here? I'll say my most recent review, which I think has changed a bit during this conversation, was a mushroom.
I'm going to go with a joint. I can't ignore the fact that, there are a lot of aspects of this film that were done extremely well, but I also can't ignore that the story for me personally was shite.
Love jumping across the pond for that one.
I was stuck between joint and then jointy skunky, like the minus half of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, while Brad figured out if you want to go A plus, A minus, it's either direction.
So yeah, I'll go joint. I'll just say joint. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because it is, while everything is good, the story is kind of mediocre at times. And I think that if you don't think overly hard about this and you just enjoy it for a movie, it's not awful. So I would say it's like an average on the writing part, but I think everything else carries the movie. So I'll just go joint. I won't take it as negative.
I think after this conversation, as just a film and no other context at all, I would join y'all at a joint, so be a joint parade, but just for
joint pack.
The way I can sometimes enjoy films, which is to get way too into all the special features and everything. I'm gonna give it an edible. Just all that extra context, even if on its own it should deserve a joint after this conversation. Just for me personally, everything involved, edible. And then follow Brad at Brad F912. Follow Milan at XP Historian. What else? XPW. Historian. And I'm everywhere at Movies Are Dope. Forgot this for the... Oh, wait, we didn't say. Compared to Superman, which was the last one we reviewed, is this better or worse?
Worse. I enjoy Superman much more. I would recommend that to someone. Couldn't do this one.
This is tough because I wasn't a huge fan of Superman.
I wasn't either.
I'll go this movie over Superman.
Okay. This is nothing like I expected. I thought I was going to be in the minority, and y'all be like Sinners, because it is a better made film, technically speaking, at the very least. And but just in terms of rewatchability, I would go on Superman. So I was going to be 50-50. While I expected both of you to be like, Superman, this is like what was it? Deep Cover is better, is closer to this than Superman. I think I'm going to tilt towards Superman just for the rewatchability. I think I genuinely am going to get that Superman logo tattoo. But I would not have been mad to watch this film again. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's amazing all said and told, but minute to minute, it just has a texture that I don't get to experience a lot of times in theaters, and appreciate that for it. But and I forgot this exit last time before the bye-bye now, but it may be an edible, it may be a joint, or it may be a joint, but it's still dope, and I'm sure no one's going to remember because movies are dope.
I feel like we didn't talk about this beforehand.
I think we've done it, but it's been a long time ago.
Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
I'm living in a movie, there's a scene you gotta jump. I got my people at the viewing who all knew me selling tickets. Yeah, they talking about the beauty. I see Scorsese outside saying this isn't cinema. Free man, I ain't doing shit tomorrow, I don't need plans. I'll be kicking it till April off for $3 grand. I don't even need the money, I just need fans.